Aloha, welcome to my channel. Welcome back for any return viewers and subscribers and potential subscribers. Just hoping that one day you'll decide to commit and hit that subscribe button. Anyhow, today I'm going to be trying something a little bit different for my intro. And I'm going to be trying this thing on called, I think I have it right, I think it's called a cold intro or a soft intro. And that's basically just to try to let you know, the viewer, what this video is going to be about without having to commit too much time to actually listening to the video. So to get into it, because I'm wasting time already, this video I wanted to just talk about some of my things that I'm doing to help myself get through a depression that I've been in lately, and just share some tips and also some things that I've discovered about myself going through depression lately. And so yeah, just hoping to share some information about my personal experience and maybe some tips to help anybody out there that can resonate with my story, to help maybe you get through some rough spots in life, because yeah, life tends to present those. So I hope you stick around and keep watching. All right, so thanks first of all for continuing to keep watching and viewing. So not to get too much into like necessarily like what my personal depression has been about, and the things that I can get hung up in that sort of trigger me into depression. What I would like to share is more on the discovery side of sitting in my depression lately and really looking at my patterns as a human being and looking at them more deeply, more clearly. So one thing that I don't know why I never really did much extra research on until somewhat recently was in personality types. And so I, through process of elimination, have self-prescribed myself, is that the right way to put that, as being an INFJ personality type. So those that don't know what I'm talking about, this would be what's called the Myers-Briggs personality type, or personality charting. And basically from the Myers-Briggs model, basically you kind of input different what your there is an, I think, an actual test. Not I think, there is an actual test. I just haven't actually taken the real deal test. I've taken sort of various quizzes that have been offshoots of the actual Myers-Briggs test, but I haven't taken that yet. But according to these other little side quizzes, and then looking into the personality traits more according to that Myers-Briggs model, which, if I still didn't say that, basically you get 16 personality types from that model. So anyhow, looking at all of it, definitely see that I fall more in line with an INFJ. And the more I even just listen to other INFJs, there's just more and more and more that resonates with that. So I'm saying all that to say that one thing that I've been more focused on, sitting like more into my observer awareness, so that I can pan and see like the entirety of my life and lifescape, to really try to pinpoint like what is or is there an even larger pattern that I'm coming to see as I look back on my whole life, and is there something there? And sure enough, found something. Just is perfect because it does directly coincide with INFJ personality type. And what tends to be a weakness of an INFJ, or just introverts in general, is that we are so comfortable with being in our minds and in our thinking and thoughts that I can absolutely just get stuck there. And I used to see that not necessarily as a bad thing, that in doing so I was in retreating to my mind. I was coping. That I was seeing it as like a positive coping skill, and what I'm coming to see is that it's not. Sometimes, retreating to the mind to really kind of check things and look at things. For example, like what I was doing in my depression, retreating into the mind a bit to kind of, but using mind space, my observer awareness to look at my life, and the objective being to see patterns. So that, for me, is good. That's beneficial. My mind loves doing that, loves looking at patterns and seeing patterns, seeing bigger pictures, because I can understand myself and my world better when I understand the patterns. Basically, the best way I could describe it is it's like my inner child, the little girl archetype is always kind of looking for an excuse to retreat to her like inner fort. And I use the word fort because that was one of the things that I used to love doing as a kid. I would either playing with myself and just kind of going off outside, and I loved building forts. Weird, I don't know, but whatever. I did. I loved it. So it's kind of that aspect of my introvertedness that I'm talking about that I've realized is not that even it's a maladaptive quality, but I've come to see that it's not a pattern that actually facilitates positive outcomes. It more or less kind of gets me stuck in negative outcomes, or to like a worse degree keeps me stuck in maladaptive patterns. So that's more of what I'm trying to talk about here, is that that real strong tendency to want to retreat into my fort because I know my fort. My fort is comfortable. It may be dysfunctional to retreat to this fort, but I do it, and I love doing it because it feels safe. So that's more, what I'm talking about. And, as an introvert, it's hard to go outside of yourself for various reasons. But especially when you're in a space of depression, it's especially hard because you have now the added layer of the depression, and then how that tends to distort the way that I think, and obviously the emotions that are going with that. And so one thing that I'm really taking massive proactivity now is looking at that desire to retreat to the fort is a weakness. It's not necessarily a strength. And so really encouraging, my little girl to come out and play. And you don't I mean, if you still ultimately need to retreat to your fort for a moment, that's fine, but don't stay in the fort and isolate, right? So it's just become a really like almost overnight become a massive uplifter in my mood, in just even in my mind space, because it's going outside of my mind, and just even sharing, as messy as it might be, just even sharing my thoughts, like with my husband, to some friends and whatnot. It's like you get other people's perspectives on what it is that you're dealing with, which is incredibly helpful, especially if you are an introvert like me, that can almost to a degree kind of think that you've already got yourself all dialed in. And the reality is, like, I don't. And I'm still learning. From my perspective, that I don't see me continuously learning about myself and discovering who I really am as actually being a bad thing. It's something I'm excited to do, which is why I do I do what I do, which is, you know, life coaching and transpersonal life coaching, and just really wanting to help people. And so, other than I for me, one of the biggest realizations that I've had going through this recent depressive episode, other than realizing that pattern of going too introverted, is the other pattern of giving so much of myself, and definitely not saying that the giving is a problem. It is something that actually is so fulfilling to me, and I love doing it. It's why I do what I do professionally. And it makes my heart sing. It brings so much fulfillment in my life, and it does bring fulfillment in my life too, to be a sort of chameleon, that I can really very easily bend and flex and go with the flow of what others are wanting to do. Because again, that is very fulfilling to me. It does make me happy. However, getting to this pattern part, the not so positive pattern, or healthy pattern rather, is the knowing when to cut that off. Cut it off meaning basically just when to say no, that it's okay, and not getting hung up in saying no, and then what are others going to think of me, because I am also an approval seeker. It is one of the traits of mine that I do see as being more of a weakness. And so it's the realization that I need to fine tune that more. Not that I've been doing absolutely horrible at the job, but apparently I was not tending to my needs all the while, still tending to others' needs, and being happy to do so, but I have to take more seriously voicing. So this is again kind of tying in that last weakness I was just talking about, keeping all the thinking in here, safe in my fort. And so, voicing more to people that I have needs too. And so just again, it's like this whole thing, depression sucks. Anybody that's ever been in it, you know what I'm talking about. It sucks. Like, it's a terrible place to be in. And, again, I do agree with a lot of people's perspective on, that perhaps just even the nature of being an introvert, and then on top of that, being an empath, more predisposes you to depression. And then, on top of that, I do think I'm an INFJ, so I think that's even more predisposition to more easily fall into depression than, say, like other personality types. And I don't even necessarily see that as a bad thing, just as long as you know what's going on and then how to navigate your way back out of it. And so, I think I'm definitely, too, learning more of those patterns of, kind of fell back in the slump. All right, let me do the steps to get back out, because I've done this a few times. But when I'm hit with, like, the more severe depression that I've been in lately, it's to me, a spiritual alarm going off saying you're not looking at something's being ignored. And so that's what I'm wanting to share here, is that I definitely took this previous experience and just did more work with it. And so wanting to share what I've discovered, because too, whoa, voice is getting all crackly, is that as I've been putting these pieces together and started, getting to work on, shifting and making some changes, it's kind of like almost miraculously overnight, like just coming right on out of it, and coming out of it like rather quickly and easily. And so I wanted to share that too, that, for for a lot of people, I think going to counseling and therapy is critical when you find yourself in these spaces, especially if you don't even know where to go to look at things, or, what is my depression rooted in. But I wanted to offer that, perhaps a teaching lesson in our depression. And as a spiritual coach and teacher, I absolutely 100% believe that. And so, maybe I have trained myself to go right there and try to look at the spiritual aspects of most things in life. But, that it absolutely has made a massive difference in coming right on out of this depression. But first things first is I had to know that I had a support system. And my husband and my family have been a massive, they've been the foundation. They've been my rock, and they've been the things necessary in my life for me to re-triangulate myself, to feel grounded again. And so I also wanted to share that part too, that if anybody is dealing with depression, if all you can find is one person to turn to, where you feel that you do have an authentic support system within that person, please tap into that, because that can literally change everything about your experience and be a massive assist in getting you out of the depression. But it does take work, and it takes effort on your part to want to get out of it. And trust me, I get it. When you're in it, sometimes there is no motivation. So that's where the support system can provide energy, some kind of momentum for you if you're fully lacking that momentum and that motivation. which if you're in the depression, you probably are. So please, use other people that are willing to help get things moving in a positive direction for you. Don't stay in the depression. It sucks because we're not meant to stay there. That's how I see it from a spiritual perspective. And so, yeah, I hope I've been able to make sense of my recent experience around depression and things that I have just become aware of that were some of my patterns and some of my habits, and what were potentially things that were actually contributing me to falling into depression. So, I'm kind of now starting to get back into the swing of things. In my previous video, I was sharing too a little bit that I had been in a depression. So hopefully, now that I'm kind of coming out of that cloud, that things are just going to be picking back up, and I'm already feeling a massive shift in being motivated to want to start recording again. So, yep, anyways, thanks so much for watching. I hope that, this was helpful in some way, shape, or form. Talking about depression can be uncomfortable. So I'm also hoping to help normalize talking about it some more, and being somebody that's experienced it, just sharing my experiences and what I've seen in the past, what's helped to get me there, but then more importantly, what's helped to get me out. And for you introverts out there, you got to go outside of yourself and get out of that fort, as safe and comfortable as it might seem and feel. Push back against that comfort zone. It does make a massive difference. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful, and we'll see y'all soon. Aloha.